Good evening, book lovers. Welcome to another episode of Cath-Lit Live. I am your host, Amy Cattapan. You can find me everywhere on social media under the pen name for my children's books. That's AJ Cattapan. I am so happy to have a new guest to share with you. Now, she's someone whose books I have known for a while. In fact, I'll probably show these again once she's on the screen with us, but I used some of her books during the initial research for my Saint Squad for Teachers book. So I'm so excited to talk with her about her latest book. So my guest tonight is Maria Morera Johnson. She's the media editor at CatholicMom.com and author of the award-winning books My Badass Book of Saints, Supergirls and Halos, and Our Lady of Charity. She also contributed to the Catholic Mom's Prayer Companion, Word by Word, Slowing Down with the Hail Mary, and Gaze Upon Jesus. In 2016, Johnson retired from her role as a professor of composition and literature. See, she's a fellow English teacher. This is why we get along so well. Johnson speaks at a number of events, retreats, and conferences, including the National Council of Catholic Women, Austin Women's Conference, and the Catholic Press Association. She's also been featured on Catholic TV and Busted Halo, as well as in Catholic Digest and St. Anthony Messenger. Johnson is a native of Cuba. She and her husband, John, have 3 grown children and live in Northern Virginia. So please help me welcome to the show, Maria Johnson. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Amy. I'm so glad to be here.
I am so happy to find you, have you on the show. I was telling everyone as I was reading your bio, I've been reading your books for a while.
Oh, wow.
And you can tell I really read them because there are sticky notes.
I love to see that. You know how that is. We love to see that in our books.
Yeah, so when I was doing my Saint Squad for Teacher books, your books were 2 of the ones I was doing some of my initial research to gather my ideas for saints who were teachers. And so now we've got your latest book, which I haven't had time to read yet. I'm put it on my summer read list after the school year ends.
Awesome.
So this is a beautiful second act, Saints and Soul Sisters Who Taught Me to. Now, do we say
no,
that?
We don't say that.
We don't say that. Okay. Who taught me to age with grace.
I love the nod that Ave Maria Press did for the first book. So they had badass on there and scratched it out, and I think it's just clever.
Yes, I love it. So tell us about this book. Give us a little 30-second elevator pitch. Maybe how is it different from your other 2?
Well, this is another book of companions. So in Supergirls and Halos, they were superheroes, and in the Badass book, it was just contemporary women and other interesting women to accompany me on my life's journey. And now with the second act, as I have retired from teaching and have really embraced a new role as an editor at CatholicMom.com. I was looking for saints who did second acts, saints who really did some interesting things later in life that could be new companions for me on this new journey.
So I'm going to start with this question. Who's the book for? Because as you're talking and you're mentioning you having retired from teaching, I've got a few more years before I retire from teaching. Because it is a beautiful second act, is this aimed more at people who are retiring or getting close to retirement? Who is your audience for this book?
Originally, as I was really conceiving the book, that's what I thought my audience was going to be. But really, it's a much broader audience. It's for anyone who is entering into a new act, a new season. Maybe you are entering into marriage. Excuse me. Maybe you are beginning a family, starting a family. Maybe you're changing careers. So it's really for anyone who is going to pivot or shift a little bit and do something a little different. And moving out of a comfort zone as we do it.
Yes. Well, I look forward to reading it this summer as I start thinking ahead to my next act in the coming years. Why did you write it? I mean, I tend to think that a lot of us who write nonfiction, we write the book we need, right? I wrote books about surviving teaching because I needed those kind of books. Was this a need for you, or was there something else that drew you to writing this book?
Yeah, it absolutely was a need, but it was a broader need because as I would get together with my girlfriends and, we would go out to dinner, we try to get together once a month. And it was the same conversations over and over again.
Mm.
What are we doing about launching our children? What are we doing about our aging parents? What are we doing about our own health needs? It seems like we are, at least women of my generation, and maybe a little younger and maybe a little older, find ourselves like the meat in a sandwich. We've got these two pieces of bread that are coming and smashing at us in opposite directions, and I was really feeling like life was taking a big old bite out of me. And I had the validation, I don't know, the encouragement from my girlfriends who were going through the same thing. And just thank God that we had each other to, bounce our frustrations and our anxieties and our concerns, and most importantly, our prayers for each other. And so I thought, oh, well, here's another book.
Here's another idea born out of necessity, as I think a lot
That's
of
right.
nonfiction is. Well, I started as a fiction writer, and in the fiction world, people say, write the novel you want to read, write the novel that's not out there yet. And as I've now transitioned into my last few books being nonfiction, I'm like, I feel like as a nonfiction writer, it's not the book I want to read so much as the book I need to read. Right?
That's right. That's right. And it's funny because in these books, the saints come to me.
Mm.
Sometimes the women do because, we're on social media, and this happens to be Women's History Month. So I have plenty of material for another book if I wanted to about extraordinary women. But I feel like the saints would come to me in the moments that I needed them most. And, like one of the saints in the book is Saint Jean Jugan. And she was dedicated to caregiving older women that she took care of. And eventually, the Little Sisters of the Poor was born from those efforts. But she was initially a caregiver. And I matched her with Rosalind Carter, who not only was a caregiver, but one of the greatest things after her husband Jimmy Carter's presidency was that they worked together, and he supported her efforts and her things. And she created a center for caregivers, including the need for respite. And so these women came to me. Why? Well, because my mother has dementia. And although I am not her primary caregiver, I do try to provide respite for my sister who is. Um, uh, I think many people know that my husband is disabled. He has ALS. And so I am his primary caregiver. And it's funny, I give my sister respite, but it's respite for me to go give her respite.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
It takes me out of, my routine and into something new. So, when I discovered, Saint John, I was like, oh, well, here's a woman that I can really, really appreciate, and the things that the Little Sisters of the Poor do. I happened to live for many years in a community where they served the elderly and poor in our community in Mobile. So I knew really firsthand the work that they were doing.
So why do we need these saints as our companions, right? Obviously, you and I've written one book with saints. You've got at least 3 here now. Why not just focus on the women who aren't saints? Why you do this nice pairing up of saints with other like more contemporary women, or in the case of the other book, superheroes and such, right? But why do we need these saints as companions?
Well, because I think that women, and we can look to many mentors in our circle of influence or communities. Um, and many of these women that we look to as these good examples of, being wonderful women, is that they have human virtues that are worth emulating, right? But when you sprinkle a little bit of grace into the equation, then you have women who are leading lives of holiness. And I don't just want to be good in this lifetime. I want to be holy. And so turning to the saints is that part of the equation for me that is encouraging, because these were women, flesh and blood like you and me. And what did they have that made them stand out? Well, they were holy. They were committed to our Lord. They lived lives of holy virtue and heroic virtue. And, in the Supergirls book, those heroes were doing, explosions, and Wonder Woman was flying through the air and stopping, invasions, and Storm was stopping the weather, and using it for her benefit. And those are bigger than life things. But the saints lead lives of quiet virtue. It's heroic virtue is perseverance. It's fortitude. It's letting the grace move through them and within them to lead, lives that were sanctifying rather than just exciting.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm really looking forward to reading it this summer after I finish grading all my essays for the school year. You know how that goes. So if other people haven't checked it out yet, where can they learn more about A Beautiful Second Act and your other books?
Well, I would love for you to go to the Catholic bookstores and start there and see if they're carrying them. But you can certainly get them from Ave Maria Press, or your local online booksellers, Amazon or Barnes and Noble. They carry it as well.
Very good. And you have a website, social media. Where can people follow you?
Oh yeah, you can start at my website, Maria M. Johnson. My kids say Mariam Johnson. It's Maria M. Johnson.com. And I have my social media links there and a little blog, and I'll send you off into all of the spaces.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Maria. I'm so glad we were able to chat about this, and we're sneaking it in here at the very end of Women's History Month. So this is perfect timing. It was God's timing that you were going to come on tonight.
That's great. I so appreciate being here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for, all right. We're going to wave goodbye to Maria. Bye, Maria. All right. So like I said, I have read through her first two saint books. I enjoyed them very much. She just has a very fun way of taking saints and then pairing them with other people you're probably familiar with, or maybe not, maybe people you're not familiar with, and bringing them together. So I'm looking forward to reading this one this summer when I have some more time. If you've read any of her books, please let us know in the comments what you thought, or what was your favorite saint or pairing that she put together. And until next time, I'm just going to wish you all happy reading.